This is Adrenaline Radio. You're listening to Adrenaline Motorsports. As times progressed, you started having small jobs and you started working so you could buy better parts, and we were able to do that. And then you learned about who was the engine builders in the neighborhood, and this is how I met a gentleman by the name of Nick Arias. He was the local neighborhood engine builder, and he worked for a car dealership. I think it was Warren Big Chevrolet at the time that I met him, and he was always running to the machine shop and picking up parts and having things done. And he had a house there near the local high school and gathering point over there, and they used to have Stan's Drive-In at that time. And I met Nick, and we talked about what he was able to put together. And for me, as a young man, I had an old 37 Chevrolet, and I had a 6-cylinder engine in it. And, well, he was very knowledgeable on the GMC truck engines, and one thing led to another, and that's basically how I got started in what I would call street racing. Today, it's not the right thing to do, of course, but that's how it moved itself forward. And but this is how you met different people. And I asked where some of the parts came from that he had, and he says, well, yeah, I know Howard Cams, and Howard Johansson was the guy's name. He's down on Main Street, 103rd and Main, and I have a Howard Cam, and this is what's in your GMC engine. And of course, I had Nixon exhaust headers on there, and I had a manifold with 5 carburetors and a Joe Hunt magneto on it, and I thought I was big stuff, and it was really a pretty neat car. And I got to go run at the local drag strip, which for us back in that day was Lions Drag Strip. I mean, that was where we first ran, and they started fairly early in the era of street racing, just to get the kids off the street. And those are the exciting times. I think those were the good times, that we were close to our buddies and building cars. But as we built these cars, we found that we wanted to go faster, and it started to get serious. We then hooked up with some other friends of ours that had purchased what I call today an altered coupe, which was what's found in some of the hot rod museums today. It was a 33 Ford coupe with the engine set back about 25%, and it belonged to a car club, but they were selling off their cars. It was the Sparks and Bonnie Racing Team, as a matter of fact, and there was an article in one of the hot rod magazines in the early days. There was 4 cars there. There were 2 roadsters and 2 coupes, and the 33 coupe is what we ended up buying from that group of guys, and the owner of that car was a fellow by the name of Everett Israelson. And good old Everett, he was real interested in what we were doing, and so I had a friend who I had met, well, in the early stages of my life primarily. He grew up in the same neighborhood, and he was an Asian kid. His name was David Ichikawa, and he was a real neat guy. But in the latter years, as we were all growing up, he was a carpenter and made good money, and he actually was a contractor in the early stages of his life. And he wanted to drag race, so he basically acquired the funds and put it into this coupe. And he says, well, if I would work on the car, that I would get to drive it. And so that was one of the thrills of my life and the beginnings of what I thought was to be a very serious career. And so this was a serious engine, and again, it was an engine that was provided to us and built by, again, Nick Arias before he was in the things that he does today. This was the engines built in his garage at home, and he was again the neighborhood engine builder, and he was very influential in the stuff that we did. And he used to go to the strip and watch us run the car, and we started doing pretty good. Of course, in those days there wasn't money involved; it was just the winning of trophies, and that was the fun thing. I mean, we got a big kick out of it, but just to go and participate, and then we met a bunch of other guys that were doing the same thing we were doing. Some were car clubs, and some of the clubs were had names. They were the Drifters. I think they came out of Long Beach, if I'm not mistaken. And so it was a pretty neat deal. I mean, we got to race some of the clubs there at Lions, and I thought that was a pretty fun thing. And in that process, I met some other guys that had the same likes that we had, and they wanted to hang out with us when we ran this coupe. So it was a pretty neat deal. And the gentleman, one of the guys that became very prominent in drag racing, his name was Dale Smart, and he was from Compton, and his dad had a sheet metal business, and but I didn't know any of this at the time. And when this program that we had with the 33 coupe that we'd gotten from Everett Israelson, this whole team broke up and went its way, Dale said, well, let's build our own car. And I said, oh, that'd be pretty good. And so I went out and started looking around, and I found a car that was owned by a famous drag racer who had the same kind of coupe, which was basically Frank Icano.